Hey guys, tonight we step into a place that might look majestic in postcards, but is actually more chilly stone, boxed with rats than fairy tale palace. Picture this. You're crossing the drawbridge just as the last rays of sun slip behind the battlements. The air crisp enough to make your nose tingle, and the heavy wooden doors creak like they've been complaining for centuries. You probably wouldn't survive this without a few layers and a sense of humor, but that's exactly why we're here. Don't worry. I've got the dry sarcasm covered. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, comment down below with your location and local time, because it helps us feel connected while you're snug in your bed. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The castle stretches around you, a tangle of towers and walls, each stone cold to the touch, even if your hands are already clammy from the autumn chill. Imagine brushing against the walls as you wander through narrow corridors. The rough stone scratches your palms, and somewhere in the distance, a draft whistles through an arrow slit like a distant ghostly flute. The castle isn't trying to be mean, it's just doing its job, fortifying, towering, enduring, while you, on the other hand, are trying to figure out why anyone thought this was comfortable living. You shuffle down a hallway lined with torches, the smoke curling up in lazy spirals, carrying the faint scent of burning wood mixed with something you can't quite identify. Probably centuries of dust, maybe a forgotten cloak, or a cat that once decided this was the perfect place for a nap. Historians still wonder if people ever truly got used to the smell, or if it was one of those background horrors everyone pretended not to notice. You imagine it now, your nose wrinkling as you step over a slightly damp flagstone, knowing you'll soon get used to it, just like everyone else did, eventually. Above you, battlements tower like sleepy giants, watching over the courtyard, and below, you hear the distant clank of someone moving supplies. There's a rhythm here, a living heartbeat in stone and mortar. And yes, that's a very polite way of saying castles are noisy, between doors banging, chains rattling, and a distant dog barking at a shadow that isn't there. Silence is a luxury you'll never afford. Quirky detail. Some castles even had night owls, human lookouts stationed to shout warnings because apparently, rats aren't the only thing you need to be afraid of at night. As you stand in the central hall, the cold seeping through your clothing, your imagination can't help but wander. A massive hearth sits in one corner, promising warmth but delivering only a faint heat that struggles against the high ceilings and wide stone floor. You can almost feel the drafts sneaking around corners and chilling your fingers. And while we think of castles as cozy places of royalty, the reality is that each room feels like it's conspiring against comfort, whispering, "Good luck sleeping tonight." Even as you take in the grandeur, the tapestries, the carved stone arches, the view from a tiny window, you start to notice the small absurdities. A misplaced broom, a helmet left on the floor, and an unidentifiable stain that might have a story. Or maybe it's just medieval life being messy. You can't help but smile, thinking, people actually lived like this? And yes, they did, for decades, if not centuries. Your modern mind shudders slightly, but the curiosity keeps you moving forward. You breathe in the cold, the faint smoke, and the centuries of history packed into every corner. The castle is alive in its own inconvenient, drafty, slightly smelly way. You might want to be somewhere else, maybe under a plush blanket, but for tonight you're here, feeling the weight and chill of a structure that has seen countless dinners, arguments, and midnight chases. And honestly, that's exactly why you're surviving this with a smile, because you're seeing it, really seeing it, without having to sweep the floors yourself. You move deeper into the castle, and suddenly you're surrounded by the rhythms of medieval life, a blend of order, chaos, and a touch of mild confusion that somehow kept the place running. The nobles glide through their routines with a kind of practiced grace, while servants scurry, balancing plates, buckets, and the occasional chicken that has somehow wandered off course. You watch as they pass, noting the slight grimace on the cook's face as she carries a pot of something that smells vaguely like yesterday's porridge, but thicker, heavier, and somehow more ominous. It's a reminder that in a castle, hierarchy isn't just a rule, it's the soundtrack of life. As you trail behind a particularly frantic servant, you notice the quirks that make this medieval microcosm so strangely vivid. Everyone has a role and nobody has much privacy, especially you. Servants might eat what's left over, sleep where they can, and dodge orders like a game of real-life dodgeball that never ends. Quirky detail. Some servants would carry long sticks just to shoo away rats from the kitchen. But occasionally the rats won and everyone had to negotiate. They're tiny terms of coexistence. Historians still wonder if the peasants ever truly felt empowered in their routines or if they simply accepted the chaos as a way of life. The nobles, on the other hand, stride through the hallways, robes brushing the stone floors, laughing softly at jokes that sound, to your modern ears, oddly flat but intensely serious to them. You notice the little absurdities, a lord measuring his wine by the tilt of a cup, a lady fussing over her hairnet like it's the crown jewels themselves, and someone, probably a jester in disguise, hiding behind a pillar, trying not to be noticed. You can almost feel the tension beneath the surface, the constant balancing act between authority and absurdity. As you wander past the dining hall, the smell of bread baking mingles with something less appetizing, a pungent reminder that hygiene was not exactly a castle priority. You catch snippets of conversation, some heated, some amusing, debates over how much salt should go into the stew, complaints about the lack of firewood, and whispered gossip about the knight who apparently mistook the kitchen cat for a mythical creature. It's a living, breathing environment where discomfort and humor coexist, and somehow everyone manages to survive. You pause by a staircase, peering down into a lower level that seems perpetually dim and slightly damp. This is where many of the servants sleep, on straw mats or wooden planks, shivering under thin blankets. Modern luxury has nothing on this, and you can't help but smirk at the thought of complaining about your heating bill. The walls here echo every shuffle of a foot, every whispered conversation, and the occasional clink of a dropped spoon. It's like a medieval symphony, performed in minor keys. In a quiet moment, you imagine being part of this world, wearing a heavy wool tunic, holding a candle, and trying not to stub your toe on the uneven stone. You think about meals eaten in the dim light of torches, chores done in silence or whispered camaraderie, and the strange pleasure of a warm bath when it's finally allowed, though that was rare, and likely cold by modern standards. You feel the rhythm of life, small victories, minor discomforts, and endless routines, all stitched together by tradition and necessity. It's easy to laugh at some of it, imagining someone carrying a bucket of water while dodging chickens and a particularly stubborn goose. But that laughter is also a bridge. It lets you step into their shoes, heavy, smelly, but surprisingly resilient, and feel what it might have been like to survive each day with humor as your secret ally. You realize that despite the cold stone walls and endless chores, there's a sense of purpose here, a structure that, while rigid and sometimes absurd, keeps the castle alive and buzzing. The castle's sensory world begins to wrap around you like a thick, slightly damp blanket. You take a slow breath, noticing the mingling scents, smoke from the hearth, a hint of herbs drying in a corner, and something earthy, like the stones themselves are exhaling centuries of stories. Somewhere above, a bird has found its way in and perches on a beam, cooing softly, its tiny claws clacking against the wood. You realize quickly that silence is rare here, replaced instead by a subtle soundtrack of life, footsteps echoing, distant laughter, the occasional grunt, and the rhythmic drip of water from a leaky roof. Quirky detail. Some castle corridors were designed with intentional echo points so that a single shout could carry across multiple levels, sort of like a medieval intercom, but without the convenience of volume control. As you move through the main hall, you notice the mixture of smells in the kitchen. The aroma of baking bread and roasting meat is strong, but not overpowering, unless you've wandered too close to the piles of onions or the bucket that's been quietly fermenting in the corner for who knows how long. You wrinkle your nose, but it's oddly comforting in a bizarre way, like your nostrils are being reminded that life isn't always scented candles and filtered air. Historians still wonder if the general public back then ever adjusted fully to these smells or if it was a constant background annoyance that everyone simply ignored. In the stables, the scent shifts again, earthy and warm, with a hint of hay dust and horse's breath. You can hear them shifting their hooves, nickering softly as if gossiping among themselves about the humans clumsily navigating their world. You peek at the hayloft and notice the small, unintended companions of castle life, mice scuttling, a barn owl watching from the shadows, and occasionally a cat that has claimed a sunbeam for its nap. You imagine a servant sneaking through this space, trying to feed everyone without tripping over a startled goat or slipping on a puddle of something sticky. Moving toward the sleeping quarters, the air changes again, cooler and slightly musty. The smell of wool blankets mingles with the faint scent of the previous night's fires. Here the acoustics are intimate. Soft sighs, whispered conversations, and the occasional creak of a bedboard settling under a weary body. You notice how walls, floors, and even furniture absorb sound differently, creating pockets of quiet interrupted by sudden echoes. Quirky detail. Some rooms were intentionally positioned near latrines, supposedly for convenience, though it often meant waking up to more than just the morning sun. You take a moment to close your eyes and let the castle's auditory tapestry settle around you. The drip of water, the occasional clang, the flutter of birds or insects, it all forms a gentle rhythm, like the heartbeat of a world that has survived centuries of human comings and goings. You think about how odd it must have been for the inhabitants, balancing the mundane with the occasional burst of excitement, like unexpected visitors, feasts, or a sudden fire in the kitchen. Even with these constant sensory intrusions, there's a comfort in predictability. You know where each smell is likely to linger, which corridors amplify your voice, and how the castle seems to sigh with you as you wander. And in this, you start to understand a subtle truth. The castle, with all its discomforts, quirks, and sounds, is alive in a way modern buildings never are. Every echo, every draft, every faint whiff is a reminder that this place is more than stone. It's a repository of lives, routines, and stories. As you pause to soak it all in, you can't help but marvel at how people manage to navigate this world daily, finding humor, comfort, and even beauty in the most unexpected details. You feel a sense of connection stretching across time, like you're not just observing history, you're tiptoeing through it, smelling it, hearing it, and slowly letting it lull you into a calm rhythm. The night begins to settle over the castle, and you feel the chill wrapping around you, like a woolen cloak that's seen better days. You wander toward the sleeping quarters, each step echoing softly, carrying with it the faint scent of smoke, straw, and lingering dinners. The beds themselves are an exercise in minimalism. Straw-filled mattresses, thin blankets, and pillows that could double as small sacks of sand. You sit down on one, testing the weight, and immediately wonder how anyone managed a full night's sleep without modern comforts. It's almost endearing in a tragic sort of way, and slightly humorous, like stepping onto a stage set for an avant-garde theater production, where comfort was a running joke no one told. Heat, or the lack thereof, becomes instantly apparent. The hearths, though grand, barely manage to reach every corner, leaving pockets of cold that sneak through gaps in doors and cracks in stone walls. You pull your blanket tighter, imagining yourself as a noble, wrapped in layers of linen and wool, counting drafts like sheep. Quirky detail, some castles used braziers on wheels to drag heat around the halls, but the smoke often made the air nearly impossible to breathe, leading to a constant compromise between warmth and survival. Historians still wonder if people actually felt cozy, or if they simply mastered the art of tolerating cold with a stiff upper lip or a muffler. Fashioned from something less formal, heat, or the lack thereof, becomes instantly apparent. The hearths, though grand, barely manage to reach every corner, leaving pockets of cold that sneak through gaps in doors and cracks in stone walls. You pull your blanket tighter, imagining yourself as a noble, wrapped in layers of linen and wool, counting drafts like sheep. Quirky detail, some castles used braziers on wheels to drag heat around the halls, but the smoke often made the air nearly impossible to breathe, leading to a constant compromise between warmth and survival. Historians still wonder if people actually felt cozy, or if they simply mastered the art of tolerating cold with a stiff upper lip or a muffler. Fashioned from something less formal, you notice the strange architecture of the rooms, high ceilings that make the fire feel distant, narrow windows that invite a teasing breeze, and heavy tapestries intended for insulation but more decorative than practical. You hug your knees to your chest, imagining the drafts as playful ghosts, dancing through the room, reminding you that luxury is relative. It's funny to think about how someone could sleep soundly in this environment, yet countless nights were passed in this delicate balance of warmth and chill, comfort and draft, human resilience on full display. The sounds of the castle at night are a soft symphony, a distant owl hoot, the low groan of settling timber, and the occasional whisper of someone trying not to disturb the household. Your ears tune into the rhythm, the gentle cadence forming a strangely soothing backdrop. You can almost picture servants tiptoeing with bowls of water, nobles fidgeting under heavy blankets, and the castle itself breathing in time with its inhabitants. Lesser known fact, some castles had small night walls, low partitions meant to block drafts between sleeping areas. Yet they often did more to confuse occupants than warm them. As you lie back, imagining the world around you, you can't help but marvel at human adaptability. The body learns to cope with uneven floors, cold nights, and minimal bedding. You, as a visitor from another time, notice every inconvenience, every quirk, and yet it begins to lull you into a gentle acceptance of this strange rhythm. Modern luxuries fade from memory, replaced by the intimacy of shared discomfort and quiet ingenuity. You think of the open windows in the towers, letting moonlight spill onto stone floors, and the faint smell of embers in the hearth mixing with the evening chill. It's a sensory paradox, cold and warm, harsh and cozy, all existing in one place. And as your eyes drift over the uneven walls, the flickering shadows, and the soft echo of distant movements, you start to realize something profound. This castle, miserable as it may be, has a heartbeat. It pulses with the lives of everyone who has walked these halls. The laughter, the sighs, the small victories over discomfort. And in that heartbeat, there's a slow, steady invitation to close your eyes, breathe, and let the night settle around you as if you, too, belong here, if only for a while. By now, the castle feels almost familiar, its quirks settling into a gentle rhythm around you. You wander through the quiet corridors, noticing little oddities that make you smile. A misplaced helmet propped awkwardly on a chair, a pair of boots left in the middle of a hallway as if someone simply forgot them, and a tapestry slightly askew, probably ignored for decades. These small, imperfect details make the grandeur feel human, reminding you that the people who lived here were far from flawless, and yet surprisingly inventive in coping with discomfort. Quirky detail. Some castles had small alcoves in walls called garderobes, which were medieval toilets. And while they were technically convenient, you can't help but chuckle imagining a drafty visit to the loo in winter. Historians still debate how sanitary these arrangements truly were, or if people mostly just relied on hope and luck. You follow a narrow spiral staircase upward, each step creaking softly beneath your weight, and as you ascend, you notice the way the castle's towers frame the sky. The moonlight streams through arrow slits, casting silver ribbons on the stone floors. You feel a sense of calm mixed with curiosity, imagining the watchman who once spent nights scanning the horizon for enemies. It's a strange contrast. The castle is both protector and discomfort machine, a place designed to keep people safe but rarely comfortable. You can almost hear a faint chuckle from a long-dead soldier who had to endure the cold while wearing chainmail, probably the medieval equivalent of a particularly annoying alarm clock. Passing through a smaller chamber, you come across evidence of the castle's everyday magic. A simple wooden table, a few chairs, and remnants of a meal that might have included bread, cheese, and perhaps a strangely chewy stew. You inhale the imagined aromas, letting your mind wander. It's easy to forget that this place, so imposing and often miserable, was also full of life, laughter, and small celebrations. You picture children running in the halls, a dog dozing by the fire, and a lord attempting to impress a visiting noble with entirely too much pomp. The combination of human activity, stone walls, and flickering light creates a rhythm, a slow heartbeat that begins to soothe you. You pause near a window, the wind brushing against the cold stone and carrying faint scents from the courtyard. Hay, wet earth, and the lingering aroma of animals. You lean against the sill, letting the chill tickle your fingers, and consider the strange balance of the castle. It's a place of survival, yes, but also ingenuity. The stone walls protect, the tapestries insulate, the hearth warms, and the people adapt, always finding small comforts in an imperfect world. Lesser known fact, some towers even had hidden passages, secret nooks that allowed messages, goods, or occasionally people to move unseen. It's tempting to imagine sneaking through one now, just to feel the castle's secret pulse. As you continue your quiet exploration, the evening winds down into a gentle lull. The distant sound of flowing water, the rustle of animals, and the soft echo of footsteps become a lullaby. You feel yourself breathing slower, the discomforts of stone and draft fading into the background, replaced by the castle's quiet, persistent life. You've wandered through halls, kitchens, bedrooms, and towers, glimpsing history in both its grandeur and absurdity, and now the world seems softer, calmer, more intimate. The cold stone, the flickering light, the gentle hum of life, they all converge into a sense of serenity. It's time to let yourself drift with the rhythm of this ancient place, imagining the warmth of shared humanity and the tiny victories of daily survival. The castle, once daunting and uncomfortable, now feels like a living companion. Its quirks and oddities like gentle reminders that life is never perfect, yet often more charming when seen up close. You sink deeper into that quiet, letting the gentle sounds, the soft light, and the lingering warmth guide you toward a restful, easy calm. Now, the wind-down passage to slowly ease the listener into sleep. The night stretches gently around you, soft and unhurried. You feel the stone beneath you slowly surrendering its chill, the echoes of distant halls fading into a comforting hush. Each breath you take matches the castle's quiet rhythm, slow and even, as if the walls themselves are exhaling alongside you. You imagine moonlight spilling over the battlements, silver and soft, brushing the floors and walls with a gentle, luminous calm. The smells, once sharp, now mingle into a faint, soothing blend of smoke, herbs, and worn wood, like the deep exhale of centuries. You picture a small fire in the hearth, its glow warm and steady, flickering lazily against the stone. Outside, the wind hums softly, a lullaby only the castle has learned. Shadows stretch long and comforting, weaving through corridors and over staircases, moving like slow dancers in a silent ball. You feel the weight of history, of countless lives pressing not heavily, but like a gentle hand on your shoulder, reassuring you that this space has always been lived in, loved, and endured. With every slow breath, your muscles relax, the mind quiets, and the rhythm of the castle guides you deeper into calm. You imagine walking through empty halls, footsteps silent, feeling the cool stone, hearing the distant drip of water, and knowing that you are safe here. The warmth of human presence lingers in the walls, the memories of countless nights, like this one wrapping around you like a comforting blanket. Let your thoughts drift like leaves on a quiet stream, gentle and aimless, carried by the soft hum of stone, wood, and night. There is no rush, no demand, only the slow, steady heartbeat of a world that has existed for centuries, guiding you into a restful ease. Every draft, every flicker of light, every faint echo reminds you that comfort can be found in the smallest details, and that even a castle once uncomfortable can cradle you softly into sleep.